Tech is boring, but that's not true. Tech is complicated, but that's not true. Tech is geeky, but that's also not true. Tech is taking over the world, but that's definitely not true. So what's true then? Tech's changing the world for good. Join me, Jagdish Mitra, every week with a special guest to unravel the butts of technology.
I think you made a great point, Jagdish, because if you step back and look at that question in a little more detail, and even in the India context, right, I think we'd all agree who's listening in today, right? India produces the world's largest female STEM graduates, right? But if you just then go on into the pipeline, one third of them only make it even into a career in technology. And then as you go into the pipeline even more, it thins out, right? So there's even less than that number of women who stay out after 5 years. And I think there's multiple reasons for that, and I think it's also very important to acknowledge the fact that this is a big problem if we don't solve it in a very sustainable way. Because we all know that if we are solving the world's most pressing problems, we need to have women in STEM not just in the entry level, but who are leaders who take on and become those proponents for change in the fields of science and technology, right? And this is where organizations like TechM, like SAP, with the practices and our very determined ways in which we are building that culture of inclusion need to solve that, right? And it's not just about, like I said, bringing in women into STEM, right? It's really about creating a pipeline of women leaders out there, right? And that's super important. I can just reflect on my own career, Jagdish. When I started off in technology, this is back in 1999, there were not many women leaders in technology whom I could consider as role models, right? And this was always a challenge. But now, if I look at the transformation that's happened, there's phenomenal women leaders who's driving the narrative, be it in the startup ecosystem or be it in the corporate ecosystem. But I think again, it's work needs to be done, and this is where organizations like us really need to make that effort to make sure that we change that. And to all women listening in, right? Finally, it's also up to you to take charge, right? To stay focused on what is it that you want to achieve. And I always say that it's not your background or your gender that's going to define you. It's really what you want. So put in your efforts. There are organizations like us who are there to support you. There you'll find great mentors and really make that way forward, right? There's nothing that can stop you, I say.
Yeah, Jagdish, I never had like a 10-year career plan, but I was always curious. And I got my first computer when I was age 12, roughly. Initially, I only used it for gaming, but then I learned that you also can do more with it. And I started programming, it was like 14, 15. So today actually would be even easier. So you can learn much earlier today. Everything is online, everything is open source, programming languages, very easy. So actually, there's a lot of opportunity. I started a company when I was 17 to building back then websites and doing programming. So therefore, you need to be curious, you need to be a little bit brave, to jump into a few waters you don't know yet. And then you need to find your passion. For me, I got to know short story. I got to know a photographer. That photographer had 4 children, happy family, but he was traveling a lot, taking pictures, and then spending most of the time behind his computer, taking pictures. And when people would call him, magazines, he was a photographer in German gymnastics, then he would search those pictures online, burn them on a CD, go to the postal office, send it via post. Very inefficient process. So our company, a friend and I, we built him basically a photographer ERP system. Up
Wow.
to payment, everything. And that for me, I saw how he then could actually he earned a bit more money.
Mm-hmm.
But even more important, he had more time for his family, his 4 children, his wife, and was much happier afterwards. And that for me was the pivotal moment that said, okay, I want to do something with technology that impacts people. And that is then where I searched, where can I best do that? And I studied business and computer science. I started doing a PhD at the best research chair for that in Germany. It also turned out this was one of the founders of SAP, Hasso Plattner. So I'm very thankful for everything he and the other founders of SAP have done. And then I followed through. Sometimes it's not easy. So I also had my challenges, but you must never give up.
So, Jagdish, it's a very proud thing for me to say, right? Because I've spent 18 years of my life in Germany, and it's phenomenal to see that Germany and India have been partners for over 70 years now, right? And brilliant partners at that. And if I look at the Indo-German collaboration, particularly in technology, I mean, we have almost 1,600 business collaborations that are happening as we speak. 600 joint ventures between India and Germany, right? And this is a very thriving partnership. And I'll tell you why. It's because I think we perfectly complement each other in terms of business and how we approach business. And I think the technology prowess that India brings to the table, take an area like sustainability. I mean, with both countries very much committed on our sustainability targets, I think many of the German companies are relying on India's tech prowess to complement that and also drive that kind of change that we need in the world today, right? And I can go on and on about many of this. And here again in India, we're working very closely with the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce to actually drive a lot of that collaborations forward.
That is very true. In Jagdish, actually I played quite a lot. I never played like shooters or anything with violence, but I played like strategic games where you build up an empire or where you build up a civilization. So yes, I do play FIFA, like soccer from time to time online. Time is now very limited, but also something like Civilization 6. I don't know if people know that, but they're really, if you want to win in building up such a civilization, you need to think very strategically, very holistically. You have to have many different aspects in mind, and you have to take a lot of decisions. But also from time to time, I like to play a round of chess, for example, and I'm looking forward later tonight. I will have a little bit of time to playing badminton with our SAP Labs colleagues.
Well, there are so many things that I can't do, Jagdish, just to be very clear about that. But I think I'm the happiest person when I'm around people. And I think what has driven me truly in my life is really to bring people together, using the power of technology to change things. So this is what drives me. But when I'm happy in my zone, that's when I'm with my children, with my dog Dexter, with my husband Brian. This is what keeps me in my zone. So those are the times that I look forward to.
It's been an amazing time. I wish it could have been longer, but for TWTW with JM, This has been a great moment, especially for me, learning from two tech leaders, learning from two large product company technologists who will give direction to us, will give direction to the youngsters. I at least learned a lot. I'm hoping the audience also gets their nuggets from this. Thank you, Jürgen. Thank you, Sindhu,
Thank you.
for being a
Thank
part
you,
of this.
Jagdish.